Good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Going to be checking out this Leapwing Joe Chiccarelli plugin that just came out, I think, 5 or 6 days ago. I've heard of Leapwing before, but I haven't tried any of their software out yet. And after doing a little bit of homework here on the company, I kind of wish I had. They seem like a company that's really in line with what I'm looking for and what I'm after in software and in plugins. So it's kind of neat to see. For those of you who haven't been on the stream before, the whole purpose of the stream, or at least these segments of the stream, are for me to check out software in real time, kind of like a live discovery process. So I've loaded up the plugin and made sure that it loads into Pro Tools, but I haven't tried this out at all yet. I haven't tried any of this out yet, so I have no idea how this thing sounds. So the whole purpose of the stream is for me to try it out in real time and for me to discover it with you folks and see what we think and see what comes up. But yeah, Leapwing seems like a really cool company after doing some reading, and I kind of became familiar with them whenever they released their Al Schmidt plugin, which I think was a couple of years ago, but I never really checked it out, and I kind of wish I had. They seem like a really cool company. Seems to be a small company, seems to be 3 people, and they seem to be trying to make plugins that are really creative and simple and inspiring to use, which is all the things I'm after. I work completely digitally, I work completely in the box, and I'm looking for tools that enhance that workflow. I'm constantly looking for tools that enhance that workflow. That's what this whole stream is, because I love trying out new software. I love seeing what's available and seeing what's possible, and yeah, you can just see like intuitive use, sparking creativity. They even go on to talk about in like the About Us. We want to solely focus on tools that use the strength of the digital to shape and improve sound. That's like such a great sentence for exactly what I'm looking for, which is pushing on the edges of what the digital domain can do in workflow and creativity and having some fun. So yeah, Joe Chiccarelli, obviously one of the biggest record producers on the planet. I'm sure if you don't know who he is, I highly recommend just taking a minute to Google. You undoubtedly have heard his work. He's a phenomenal engineer and producer, and he's been at it for quite a while. Really cool to see him stepping into the plugin world, and neat to see these kind of like signature series kind of plugins. I think kind of waves kind of started this with the Maserati stuff, and then subsequently, CLA, Manny American, who else has got the Eddie Kramer, and Jack Joseph Puig. So this is really cool. And again, these are plugins. I was just saying this about the Ozone review I did the other day. These are plugins that when they first kind of came out, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like it's taking away from my workflow and taking away from my creativity, and I really want to kind of, bake the cake myself. I don't want any help. But my opinion on that has really changed in the last, 5-6 years. I really find those things as really great tools. So it's neat to see this come out. So what this is 11 different processing chains based on what Joe Chiccarelli does, based on his workflow and his creativity. So you can import his workflow into what you're doing, which is really cool. There's a lot in this plugin by the looks of it. I mean, I did switch it from, it loads up on kick drum, and I switched it to lead vocal, so you can see that just instantly right off the bat, if this is where we're starting, and this is where I went to lead vocal. Each processing change maybe got their own kind of setup, which is really cool. I'm really interested by plugins like this that help bring somebody else's workflow into your workflow. Really, I think that's the kind of the cool part about it is that you can kind of learn from somebody who's been at it for a long time and has had a lot of success, and kind of inspire different approaches or different ideas or take you in different directions. And I think that's really cool. So I think we'll start digging in here, because there seems to be a lot happening with this plugin and a lot of different things to try it out on. I have a bit of a checklist that I go through before I even dig into the plugin. I need to know some things before I even hit play. So what's on my checklist? What do I want to see from a plugin? Well, the first thing is how does it look? Does it look inspiring to use? Is it something that looks intuitive? Does it look simple? And so far, this thing looks pretty intuitive to use. Very simple, very basic kind of GUI. There's some nice color. It's a nice color pop to it. It's kind of standard, nothing blowing me away. Seems really functional and intuitive though, so I'll definitely give it that. Really clean. I like clean. The other part about a GUI or a user interface that I'm looking for is it resizable, and don't really see any sort of resizing options here. Oh, I'm wrong. It is resizable. Okay, I doubted them for a second. Next up is kind of AB and mix knobs. I can see an AB here quickly, so that's great. I don't see a mix knob anywhere. I'm not sure that would be really needed on a plugin like this though, because it seems like it's doing many different things all at once. Undo. Looks like we got some undo and some redo. What else we got here? Well, we got a little bit of latency happening by the looks of it, I think. Let me check. Yeah, so we got about 80 samples of latency, so that's not crazy. A little bit of extra processing under the hood on this one, so it's not running totally in real time, but still pretty usable. 80 samples isn't crazy, so you could use this in a production setting. Meters. Oh yeah. We got input and output meters. I've said this on every stream I've done so far. Wish that the input and the output meters were beside each other so that I didn't have to look across. This isn't a huge distance between them, and they really look like they're big, clean meters, so that's great. Meters are working in dBFS by the looks of it, and we also have LUFS on it, so that's awesome. Really clean and simple, but yeah, I wish there was just give me the input and the output on the left or the right. Stack them up so I can see them right beside each other. That'd be great. But yeah, so we've got 11 modules here: kick, snare, toms, drum overhead, drum room, bass DI, bass amp, acoustic guitar, electric piano, lead, vocal. And yeah, from the looks of it, just from switching from kick to lead vocal, we can tell that there's different parameters set up and different processing chains set up for each one. But let's dig in. There's lots here to try. Got something that we can try out all 11 elements on and see what happens. So, and we're going to start on the lead vocal because I think that's a great place to start. That's something that we can really easily hear and tell what's happening and manipulate. That you've broken my heart. So what do we got here? EQP 100, EQP 10K. So I'm guessing that's some pull tech action happening on the EQ. For those of you not familiar with the pull tech, pretty famous passive EQ. We've got some drive. We've got some parallel power. I'm guessing that's what it means, parallel power, which I don't know what power does yet, so we're gonna find that one out. So we got the optical. Power and optical. This looks like it's going to be some sort of compression, this part, and parallel power. I'm guessing there's going to be some parallel compression, maybe some extra goodies. We got some more EQ down here, so low, mid, high, and high, and then we got reverb, 3 different reverb options. So we don't really know what the signal flow is yet, so we're going to have to find out. Just from looking at the meters here, it looks like the plugin is doing something the minute we turn it on. Let's just start turning some knobs, see what happens. But on my never a guest disappear at the hint of a spark. Then we burn out of control, body and soul, till we fade out like smoke in the dark. Then keeping this So definitely sounds pretty EQP-ish, like really gentle and clear EQ. Almost feels too transparent. EQPs, like pull techs, are really transparent, but not. I mean, they especially on the bottom end, they carry a lot of weight. So it's interesting. This isn't doing that. So much has changed. Okay, so something I'm immediately wishing for would be like, if I'm going to be starting to crank things and I'm going to start getting that much level and that much gain happening immediately, and the vocal now is popping out of context, out of the mix for me, I would love some sort of auto gain. That's also on my checklist, and I miss that. So clearly I don't think we have one here, so that's too bad. I would love a little bit of auto gain so that I could really push on this plugin and not lose context in the mix. I think that's a really beneficial thing that all plugins should have is gain matching, because I think you'd be a way more aggressive creative mixer or mastering engineer or whatever you're doing, or producer, if things were in living in context the whole time, rather than like we're trying to judge what this drive is doing, but we're just getting so much level, So yeah, let's try out the drive here again.
But it's still burning strong. We say it's over, never get closer to putting out this soul desire. Here we go again, turning ashes to track of the
Let's just push it all the way and see what it's doing.
You've broken my heart, but all mine never again disappear at the hint of a spark. Then we burn out of control, body and soul till we
So,
fade out
pretty
like smoke
gentle
in the
drive.
dark. Been keeping this flame for what feels like so long.
Super musical sounding.
So much has changed.
And really transparent, not overly aggressive at all, which is kind of not what I was expecting. The push and drive, you're thinking there's going to be some real grit come out, but just kind of adding some nice density to the vocal. Okay, let's try parallel power. So the GUI does get a little more interesting as we use it. A little bit of reacting to the audio, so that's kind of cool.
We say it's over, never get closer to putting out this soul desire. Here we go again, turning ashes to my never against this.
So far everything we've pushed sounds great. It sounds really musical, not heavy-handed at all.
Body and soul till we fade out like smoke in the dark. Been keeping this flame.
Okay, so yeah, we're definitely getting a little bit of parallel compression happening. Vocals still staying really dynamic, but we're getting a little more density, a little more vocals coming a little closer to us. Yeah. Okay, let's keep moving through them. I'm definitely gonna have to pick up the pace here if I want to get through all 11. All right, power.
But all my never against disappear at the hint of a spark. Then we burn out strong.
So seems like a pretty gentle kind of direct compression, maybe?
Never get closer to putting out this soul desire. Here we go again, turning ashes to track of the time.
Ooh, that's really pumped up forward.
You've broken my heart, but all my never against disappear at the hint of a spark.
So maybe the power is adjusting the
Then we burn out of control.
kind of knee of the compression or the aggression of the compression. Compression aggression. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it seems like a really creative and intuitive plugin, but I kind of wish, there was some tool tips here or something on the plugin. It's not straightforward enough that I intuitively know what's happening. I think I intuitively know what's happening. I think we're dealing with compression and the aggression of the compression or the knee of the compressor. But yeah, I kind of actually just want to hop to the manual. Maybe we can get a bit of a vibe for what they're doing here. All right, here we go. So profiles. Each Leapwing Joe Chiccarelli profile includes a unique set of controls. Okay. Power and parallel power. Feedback style compressed, which behaves like an aggressive 1176. Okay, so yep, we're getting the aggression of the compressor happening. When parallel power is available, the parameter also controls the wet-dry blend. Okay, pair saturation, pair smooth, optical and optical fast. An optical compressor ideally suited and tuned around the vocal chain works similar to an LA2A. Just direct compression and aggression and parallel compression, which is what I thought, but not immediately apparent what's happening. I would really love to know what the signal flow is. Do they tell us? that. Do some digging here. Maybe I can find that out later and pop that in. EQP 110K model after the famous Pultec. All right, we knew that. Drive. This is the harmonic circuit and changes based the profile that is selected. Okay, this would be a E1073 preamp stage or API console or a blend of the two harmonics. Okay, awesome. So this stuff is all changing depending on what source we're using. Sustain, parallel sustain behaves very similar to a Zener limiter with added character of warmth. So yeah, we kind of know what's happening, and maybe we'll just keep this handy for when we go to the other units and see. So let's get back to it. So the power is the 1176, and the optical is like LA2A, LA3A, depending on what we're doing. Okay, so we have two different compressors.
You've broken my heart, but all mine never against disappear at the hint of a spark.
And drive is our saturation,
we burn out of control, body and
which is really pleasant. It's not, definitely not like a distortion box or anything like that. It's just really okay. And the EQ is based on an API 550 EQ, and all of these selected frequencies would be Joe Chiccarelli's go-to frequencies for that source from what it said in the manual. So these frequencies bands are going to be tuned to lead vocal. That you've broken my heart, but all my never against disappear at the hint of a spark. Then we burn out of control. Well, we can guess on some ear training. See how well we do. But that feels pretty up there. I'm gonna say 10K and above. Pretty airy, but really pleasant. Nothing like pulling harsh out of the mids or anything like that. It's not getting strained or like, yeah, harsh. You've broken my heart. Yeah, really nice and open sounding. Which, I mean, that's the top end of the API. That's how it sounds. Sounds great. Okay, let's see what the low end's doing. I mean, Matt's got a pretty mid-rangey voice, so kind of hard to hear what the low-lows are doing on this, but guessing somewhere around 100. Let's check out the mid-high. But all my never against disappear at the hint of a spark. Then we burn out of control, body and soul, till we fade out like smoke in the dark. Been keeping this flame for what feels like so long. It's not harsh. It's really interesting. The EQ sounds really beautiful. Like it's a. We say it's over, never get closer. Yeah, it seems like we're in that. So desire, here we go again. It's interesting. It's interesting how subtle it is. It almost feels like there's a bit of soft saturation or saturation happening while you're pushing it, and maybe we're pushing into the drive. I don't know. I wish I knew what the signal path was. So take the drive off. Well, the EQ change, it's gonna change, but. Body and soul till we fade out like smoke in the dark. Been keeping this flame
much has changed, but it's still burning strong.
Hard for me to tell. Like, Matt's just got such a strong mid-range that sometimes it's hard to hear some of that higher stuff and lower stuff on his voice, but 5-6K maybe? Something in there. Maybe a little higher actually. Maybe more like 8.
Never a guess disappear at the hint of a spark.
Low mid bands.
Then we burn out of control, body and soul, till we fade out like smoke in the dark. Been keeping this flame burning strong.
Yeah, it feels like maybe around 300. This, which I love 300 on vocals actually. When it works, doesn't always work, but I'm really impressed with the EQ. I'm really impressed with how musical it sounds, and like I kind of just want to push them all.
But on my dead body and soul till we fade out like smoke in the dark.
I wish in bypass I could change parameters so that I can, if I'm trying to match something or kind of give myself an A/B. I think that would be a cool feature, just to be able to bypass and then manipulate and then pop it back in, especially if I'm gain matching like this. That'd be a cool feature to see. And another thing I was just thinking while I was messing with the EQ was it would be really nice if there was like a bypass on each of the modules, so I could click them in and out rather than just having to reset them or use the A/B. That'd be a cool feature. So 2 things there that I should really write down, otherwise I'm gonna forget. Yeah, so far this thing sounds awesome. Messed with everything but the reverb, so let's dig into the reverb.
Track of the times that you've broken my heart, but on my never a guess disappear at the hint of a spark.
Yeah, this sounds great. Obviously not just a straight reverb. We've got a little bit of delay.
Here we go again, we're meant to be.
So even at 100%, not overwhelming. It's super subtle.
Track of the times that you've broken my heart.
So yeah, instantly here, I just wish there was a bypass so I could bypass the reverb and just see what it sounds like. Try.
When we burn out of control, body and soul, till we fade out like smoke in the dark. Been keeping this flame for what feels like so long.
Yeah, it's really nice and subtle, really tasteful. It's not overt. At least A is. We'll see what B and C do.
Of the times that you've broken my heart, but on my never a guess disappear at the hint of a spark.
Smaller room.
Then we burn out of control.
More like a club vibe.
Soul till we fade out like smoke in the dark.
This sounds a little more platey to me.
For what feels like so long.
And this, I thought there was reverb on this, but this sounds like delay to me.
Changed, but it's still burning strong. We say it's over, never get closer.
So plate.
Putting out this old desire. Here we go again, turning ashes to track of the times that you've broken my heart. But
cool.
I never guess disappear at the hint of a spark.
Wow, all 3 of those modes sound great to me, and they're super useful. I like that none of them are overwhelming, even at 100%. It's like exactly where you want the reverb to be on a vocal. Well, I mean, my initial thoughts just from trying out the lead vocal thing is that this is a really cool plugin. It sounds great. Nothing I've pushed sounds bad. This is what I love about plugins like this is, and I don't know why I resisted them at first, is it just has everything you need to get somewhere really quick. You know, I guess the only interesting thing from like a vocal standpoint is maybe a de-esser built in, but I mean, I can just pop a de-esser in before or after, whatever I want to do. It's so fast too, like it's just all the things you need really quickly. You don't have to stack a bunch of plugins, which I found great. I wonder how much juice we're using. I guess we could get to a bit of a quick look there. So, okay, so it is using some juice. That's not an insignificant amount of usage for one instance of a plugin. So we went up about 15% of CPU, which, I mean, not surprising given everything that's happening in here and everything that they're saying they're doing. Like, they're not just, you know, they're modeling from what I understand anyways, it sounds like they're modeling the entire circuit design of the signal path, so trying to get all the saturation and the harmonics and all that kind of stuff. Okay, let's go try out some drums. Let's start at the kick and see what we can do. So yeah, instantly we can see that we're getting some boost, and not an insignificant amount. So I'm not a huge fan of that in plugins. I would prefer when I'm using tools that they don't start manipulating audio until I start manipulating the audio. Okay, so we covered what drive was doing. We didn't quite see what parallel sustain, parallel smooth. We know what parallel power is. So back to our handy Daniel manual. Parallel smooth, parallel compression that is extremely smooth and remind you of a 33609. Okay, so parallel sustain is our limiter. Okay. Everything seems to be really subtle and tasteful. Parallel smooth. And parallel power, which is our 1176, right? That gets a little exciting. That's nice. Okay. And our drive, which will be 1073 or API saturation. Okay. We've obviously got an API 560 style EQ here. I'm kind of curious. I think the coolest thing to do for something like this would be to check out some of the presets. Wow. That got dramatic. Heavy rock kick. Yeah, I mean, it's just over the top with no gain matching. Pop kick. So, I mean, clearly just from bouncing around just a few of the presets here, I mean, this stuff can really dramatically change in tone. You get some pretty dramatic things happening. So cool that we get 3 different types of parallel compression and some great EQ curves. And it looks like you get a pretty decent amount of presets if you want, just as for quick starting points. Let's move on to the snare and see what we get. So snare, same thing, we get the 560 EQ, we get the drive, 1176, some optical and some Zener limiting. And I think just moving forward here, just in the sake of brevity, rather than me trying to experiment with each module individually, because there's 11 different modules. I think I'm just gonna pop through some of the presets. It seems like maybe a better idea, and we'll really get to hear kind of the range of the sounds, because really I'm just gonna go to what my tastes are initially, and might not push it in some of the directions that some of the presets are for. So maybe we'll just stick with that for the rest of this review. So snare, I am curious. I do want to hear what the reverbs are doing, so we'll just go to those in solo. So, kind of hallish. Or maybe plate. A little smaller room. All really great sounding verbs. Okay, let's check out some of the presets. Whoa. Okay, so we hit some sort of bug there. That was not fun. A little nervous here to try out the next one. Gonna do it in mute. Okay, it looks like we got this funk snare preset back. No problems. Yeah, I really wish there's no gain match then give me the ability to change the parameters and bypass. Rock snare preset. So interesting, I didn't notice this before, but we get 2 levels of EQ with the snare. We get the 560 and we get the 550. Really interesting. Ooh. I'm a little nervous to change presets here. It's the danger of working strictly on headphones. Yeah, I really wish I knew what the signal flow was doing. So my EQing into compression, I'm just going to assume, because it's going from left to right a little bit, that maybe that's happening. But, and where's my drive living? Is it living at the beginning or at the end? So that'd be really cool to see. Yeah, we're hitting some sort of, at least it kind of knows that it's lost its little mind. We get a little red light. Does it reset okay? Reset's okay. Boy, you sure? Yeah, you can get a wide variety of things happening here. Okay. Yeah, none of it sounds bad. Nothing we've turned at all at any point has sounded bad yet. So that's cool. All right, well let's get the rest of the drums dialed in here and maybe do a quick A/B bypass. So we got some overheads. So what do we get on the overhead track? So we get our drive, our parallel saturation. Okay, that's something we haven't checked out yet. I think that's one of the only modules left that we haven't checked out yet. Yep. Oh, punch and parallel punch. So parallel saturation, unique saturation unit that reacts similar to an overstay or saturator. Okay, it adds a lot of color to your signal and is used to blend with the original signal. Okay, crank this up a little bit so you folks can hear it. Really nice saturation. All right, let's run through some of the presets and see what happens. Sounds nice. All sounds really classy. Like, even though we're pushing some, I mean, not pushing a ton, but we're pushing up on the cymbals. There's nothing brash coming out, nothing harsh, nothing that I want to be like, oh, this is getting a little too intense for me. It sounds like nice analog EQ, really, is what it sounds like. It sounds really nice. Yeah, like it's got some sort of soft saturation in it. Let's see what happens with the room. Okay, so what do we got here? Parallel saturation, our drive, and our power. Okay, well let's check out some presets. Let's go back off the level here so I don't blow up all of our ears. bass. Cool. All really subtle moves. So you can be subtle or you can get extreme with it. It's funny, it feels like this is a plugin, like, even though it's clear we're adding in a lot of 1176, it's not ugly or destructive sounding. It's really musical sounding still. Pretty great though. Okay. We don't have any toms here, but we do have toms in the verse. We can go to the verse. We have a loop in there, so it's not just straight acoustic toms. But what do we get when we pop up the toms? So we get our drive, our sustain, our smooth, and our parallel power. Alright. Let's look into the mind of Mr. Joe Chiccarelli. His tom mind. Okay, we'll go in and make sure we're kind of more game matched. So we got happening on a little bit of everything right now on the drums. So this is with processing on the drums. Bypassed. Really nicely subtle, but way better. Loop the chorus up here. It's a pretty great drum mix, pretty quickly. I mean, you can dial that in super fast. Let's keep it on and keep moving. Got a few more modules to check out. Bass. This was, I think this is, I know it says DI, but I think it was an amp, or at least an amp sim on the way in. That's what it kind of sounds like to me too. It doesn't sound like straight DI to me. Okay, so what do we get on Mr. Bass Amp? Get some drive, some parallel punch, some punch. Okay, so here we are getting our DBX 160 emulation, so we should check that out. And then we're getting some reverb on bass, which is super cool because that's something I do occasionally. If I'm having a tough time setting the bass into a mix, it's really nice to add some reverb. That was something I read, 20 some odd years ago about from Jeff Emmerich doing with the Beatles. So he really liked to sneak some reverb on the bass to sit it in. So kind of cool to see it's here. I use a lot of like Dimension D on bass too to kind of just give it a little bit of movement and room kind of thing. Okay, so let's see what this sounds like. So here's our punch. Pretty transparent. It is compressing, it's not doing a ton. Parallel punch. Definitely a little bit more there with the parallel punch. Let me bring this bass up for y'all. Really subtle on both compressors. Cool. So some like serious reverb. We could pop this on to a stereo channel in the group. So yeah, we are getting stereo reverb if we wanted it. Interesting. I'm curious to try some of the presets to see kind of where Mr. Chiccarelli sits this. Okay, yeah, so drive, punch, parallel punch, and then we've got our 560 EQ. So we switched to DI chain here, so our modules switched. Parallel punch, punch, drive, same things, but our EQ switched. The only preset that we're getting with some of the reverb, or how Mr. Chiccarelli uses reverb on bass, is on a DI, fretless DI kind of preset. Sounds great. This is the preset I like the most, even though it's a DI thing on an amped kind of sound. Feels good to me. Okay, I think I'm just gonna process the electric guitar bus rather than trying to get it on individual guitars, just because we're got a lot to try. So what do we get here on the guitars? We get some drives, some of our power, so our 1176 kind of biz, and then we also get the optical fast, which I'm gonna guess is more like a LA3A over a 2A. Yeah, LA3A. Cool, and then we've got the 550 EQ and some reverb. And let's check out the reverb solo here. Very subtle. Seems like more of a delay than a reverb on A. All very subtle. Kinda hard to hear what's happening. A little bit longer. I mean, all really tasteful stuff. Nothing gets over the top. I kind of wish it did get over the top so I could really hear what was happening. Okay, so we're processing the whole guitar bus here. We're not doing individual elements. And maybe just because we got a pretty left and right thing, maybe I'll try this in multi-mono. We'll maybe do that. In case the compressors, maybe it's like a stereo compressor, so it's gonna screw up my. I kind of felt like I heard the left guitar affecting the right guitar, so. Sounds nice though. Sounds really nice. Let's play with the acoustic guitar. Okay, so what do we have on the acoustic? Our 560, our 550, some drive, some power, and some optical fast. So these are all modules we know already. Acoustic. Man, it sounds nice. It's all got this really kind of nice analog feel to it, even though it's all digital. None of it sounds clinical, and it feels like good analog equipment does, where it's kind of hard to make good analog equipment sound bad. As you push it, it just kind of makes everything sound better. Okay. Okay, and yeah, we got this little bit of a piano synth thing, so we'll just quickly, I know it's not an electric piano, but it's, alright. And electric piano. So what do we get on the electric piano? We get the power, we get the punch, so we get 1176. We get, I really like this graphic. It's definitely an electric piano. It's kind of funny. So we got the power, so our 1176. We got the punch, which is our DBX, and we got the drive. And we get some reverb. All these reverbs are really subtle, which is great because I actually don't love a lot of reverb. It's really kind of interesting to see and like look at some of the EQ curves on some of the different things that we've had here on all the different instruments, and sometimes they're really pushed, but overall it all seems to be really subtle moves that's on all these presets. So. Okay. So I think we officially have this on everything in the mix at this point. So we can do a bit of an A/B. We've kind of mixed our song with Joe Chiccarelli. Okay, let's just loop up the chorus. And let's do a bypass. Okay, so Joe Chiccarelli in on the mix. And Joe Chiccarelli out. Bypass. Engaged. Oh, I just have the keys too loud. I probably just turned them up. Yeah, I turned them up. It's like, why are those keys so loud? Okay. So, Joe Chiccarelli bypassed. Great. It's really, yeah, tasteful. A tasteful plugin. Super musical. Yeah, we went from, you know, production mixes where this is technically living right now. Pretty polished mix, pretty quickly. I mean, that's just all using presets, except for the vocal. I think the vocal I did myself, didn't I? I think I did. So engaged. Bypass on the mix. Sounds really nice. Just instantly becomes a more polished mix, and everything sounds like there's nothing harsh coming out of anything, which is great, and it's really nicely controlled but doesn't feel overly compressed. Any of whatever the direct compression is doing seems really gentle. Let's look at our system usage here. So we're running 10 instances of the plugin. So it is a juicy plugin. Yeah, this thing sounds great. I'm pretty impressed. Nothing heavy-handed about it. Even when you really push all the modules, nothing seems heavy-handed. Cool. I think we should probably just recap at this point. So, Leapwing Audio, Joe Chiccarelli plugin with 11 different modules in it. Each module is tailored to Joe Chiccarelli's processing chains for that particular instrument. Overall, this thing's super cool. I really like it. I really like how it sounds. Everything sounds great on it, to be honest. Like I don't think I got anything to sound bad, even when I really pushed it. It's a really classy sounding plugin. It's really musical sounding. It feels really analog. Like it's kind of got this nice soft saturation to the whole thing, which is really great. It sounds really nice. I like plugins that kind of let you into somebody else's head a little bit and bring all of their experience into your mix, which is cool, or your master or whatever. Not that you would use this in mastering. You could certainly use this in production, and you could certainly use it in mixing. I mean, I think it's mainly geared for mixing, but you could definitely use this in production, no problem. I like that each module changes depending on what's needed. I really like that there's lots of things in parallel. I really like parallel workflow. I do that a lot myself. But even the things that are kind of listed as direct compression don't feel heavy-handed at all. Doesn't feel like you're really going too far with any of it. It seems really, really controlled. I don't think this is a plugin you would lean on to like radically push something. It seems to just really kind of be built to enhance what's already there in a really musical and tasteful way. The reverb sounds really great on all of them. It's super subtle, and it seems to be dialed in perfectly for each source, so that's really cool. Things that I would like to see on the plugin, I think the biggest thing that I struggled with in using this thing the whole night was gain matching. I think you could really use an auto gain on the output just so that I could really aggressively change things. Everything I'm doing is probably going to be adding gain. You're adding compression, you're adding EQ. You're just instantly adding gain, and everything seemed to get really like loud really quickly, and it's hard to hear in context. And I really love working in context. I think auto gain would be a really big win for this thing, and I'd really like to see the meters live beside each other rather than on opposite sides. Bypass, it would be amazing if I could adjust the parameters while the plugin's in bypass. It'd be great to be able to manipulate all of these modules in the gain while bypassed. And for the individual units within this, I think it would be great if there was bypass on each one of the modules so that I could add it in and bypass it. Those are the only kind of things I can think of. There's obviously a bit of a bug here in the plugin at the moment with switching between some of the presets and making the plugin active and inactive. We ran into some feedback loops. I'm sure there's obviously there's a ton happening under the hood. This is a pretty complex plugin. It's been made really simplified. You get a really complex workflow in a very compact package, which is awesome. I love stuff like this. These are really creative and cool plugins, and that's something they've set out to do, and they've done. My criticisms of the plugin are strictly workflow based. Sonically, I think this thing sounds super cool, and it's got a real vibe and a flavor. If I were to put a vibe and a flavor on it, I would probably put it's got that kind of API musicality-ness to it, and it definitely sounds like API EQ to me for sure. Transparent but musical. Again, yeah, taking something that's really complex, taking complex chains, like setting up parallel compressors and two different direct compressors and blending them in, having the ability to do that, having the ability to saturate and EQ, or having two different stages of EQ, reverb, all that kind of stuff right in one module is great. I like plugins like this. That's why I like Neutron or like Omnichannel, or anything that allows me to do that really quickly and easily is great. Tooltips would be a great feature to have on this. The manual is pretty great, but having some tooltips in would be a really awesome little feature. That's the other cool thing about these plugins is you're kind of getting, I mean, there just really isn't, a lot of interning anymore in the studio world, unless you're at a big studio, maybe, but there's just not a lot of opportunity to learn directly from people that have a lot more experience than you do, which was really the model when I was coming up. But that really started to change as a lot of studios started to close, and home recording became more prevalent, and budgets got a lot smaller on records. And so interning and learning from people is a lot harder than it used to be. Thankfully, we have amazing resources like PureMix and Mix with the Masters and YouTube, and we can really, really learn from people now in a way that you couldn't before, and you have access to people at the highest level. I mean, Joe Chiccarelli is at the highest level of our industry, and you get access to his brains a little bit here, which is cool. You're not in the room by yourself going, well, what would I do? You can go, well, what would Joe Chiccarelli do? Or what would Al Schmidt do? I mean, they've got the Al Schmidt plugin, which is cool. I think this plugin's well worth checking out, especially I think if you work on a lot of these instruments. Even if you don't, I'm sure this stuff sounds great on synthetic elements as well. Anything programmed, I'm sure it sounds great. Anyways, thanks for chilling out. This was a lot of fun tonight. And yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube for the first time, and don't mind dropping me a follow and a like and a subscribe there, that would be really helpful for me too. All right. Thanks so much, folks, and I hope you have a great night.